Hey guys, today is May 3rd, 2010, and I'm coming to talk to you guys about the Nightmare on Elm Street remake that I just saw on Friday. So, we have to talk about how it stacks up to the original. Now, the original starring Robert Englund, and this new one starring Earle Haley. Now, I will give both of them the credibility that they deserve. They're both talented actors. The way, to me, as well it is common knowledge that they differ, is Robert Englund has never really done anything outside of Nightmare on Elm Street. He's done a few cameos in other horror films, but he's always been Freddy Krueger, which, I mean, he is Freddy Krueger, well, as far as I'm concerned, he's the original Freddy Krueger. Just like, um, yeah, I can't think of something. Just he is the original Freddy Krueger, and when a remake comes up like this, people are going to get pissed off. People from that generation are going to be pissed off at this generation, my generation, because we don't appreciate things for how they were. Now, I appreciate the original Nightmare on Elm Street and some of the sequels, but towards the end of the line of the sequels, they just got shitty. They got stupid, they got ridiculous. And the way they are different between this new one and the original first one is they took a different stance on who Freddy Krueger is as a character. Now, Earle Haley is a very talented actor. He was Rorschach in Watchmen. He had a brief scene with Leonardo DiCaprio in Shutter Island recently. And he was in a movie with Kate Winslet called Little Children, where he played a pedophile, which, if you haven't seen that, it's worth watching at least once, but I wouldn't recommend it more than once. It's kind of a slow film, but it's worth watching his performance. He's a very great and talented actor. He kind of reminds me of like Johnny Depp in a way, of how he just seeps so far into the role that he just plays and mirrors that character so well. Kind of like Heath Ledger was. I'm not saying that all actors don't do that, but there are just others that stand out more, who actually, they really dedicate their time and their attitude and their persona to being this character, so far into it that they are that character, that it's almost scary to watch them play it on screen, because you forget for a minute who you are watching. And that's who Earle Haley is to me also as an actor. And I even read that he said he had to remind himself while in the makeup chair that he couldn't, let this role overtake him, that he had to find a comedic side to it. And that's what's interesting about this, is the makers of this didn't want to take Freddy into a comedic stance, because they felt it wasn't scary. And that's something I highly agree with, and that's why I liked the new remake a lot, because it wasn't funny. And because a slasher film doesn't need to be funny. A slasher film is blood. My phone is ringing. Okay. A slasher film is blood and carnage and teenagers having sex, teenagers doing drugs, and in that light there can be comedy. But for the killer has to have no other emotion but revenge or just psychotic dementia of wanting to kill these people. And that's why I always found it weird that Freddy was such a joke in the original, The first one, not so much. But as it went on with the sequels, I mean, in one of the last ones, for God's sake, he's playing a video game where it was Breckenmeyer, was the kid, and he's in the video game that Freddy's playing, trying to kill him. And I'm just like watching this, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is just ridiculous. I don't care if this could never happen, if this is a fantasy horror film. Go back to slashing these kids up in their beds. Go back to them in his boiler room. which I was happy that this remake focused on a lot. The boiler room, Freddy's zone of reality, his territory, just like in Friday the 13th, Jason's zone is the lake, So I really liked the remake. To me, though, honestly, it could have used more blood. The kills were pretty awesome. I will say that for the first half of the film, people were dying like that, just dropping left and right like flies. And as cool as that is, and as awesome as the kills were, it took them a while to get to the story, which was interesting, which my friend who I was watching it with, he was getting annoyed by that, why they weren't bringing up the backstory of who he was and the kids, and they were just taking so long to get to it. And I told him, well, they're getting to it, they're hinting at it, and they were. And basically, the parents of the children were covering it up. They were covering up the murder of Fred Krueger, who was a gardener at this elementary school for their children. And, spoiler alert, I'll kind of, I guess you could call this a spoiler alert, but it's not really, because it mirrors the original story that he was, I guess, a pedophile. He touched these kids, he sexually molested these kids, and the children told their parents, and the parents go and kill him, So then Freddy is who he is, he's a hell spawn, he's a man who was kind of in a way done wrong, but though he did wrong, he deserved what he got, and as the film goes on, you see understanding of the flashbacks the kids are having, and it's pretty great. I would give this film actually a 9 out of 10. Like I said, it could have used more blood, and I'm sorry, ladies, I have to apologize to you real quick for what I'm about to say, but there weren't any boobs, okay? And as perverse as that sounds, it's just kind of a rule. Slasher films have to have boobs. They have to have sex. They have to have drugs. They have to have something. They have to have just debauchery from some angle from these teenagers. There was none of that. There was no anything. It's like all these kids were just goody-goody high schoolers just stuck in this, place where they couldn't wake up from this dream world. So it was kind of a shame, because the last installment before this, Freddy vs. Jason, which was made like, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago now it was. I guess back in, I think it was 2000, maybe it was 10 years ago. I can't remember when it was made. But that even had boobs and sex. And it's just kind of a rule, and I'm sorry, but you all know what I'm talking about. Slasher films, they all have it. At least the Friday the 13th remake had the good grace to give us some boobs and a sex scene. So, I mean, and it's from the same people who made this, so I don't know. Maybe they felt that wasn't necessary, though I feel it's pretty necessary. But overall, I found it very interesting. You can't even compare Jackie Earle Haley to Robert Englund, and to do so is wrong. It's like comparing Gene Wilder to Johnny Depp in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the remakes. It's just completely, different. And it's just like comparing any of the guys who've played Batman. You can't compare Michael Keaton to Val Kilmer. You can't compare Val Kilmer to George Clooney, and you can't compare George Clooney to Christian Bale. Everyone who's played these roles makes it their own. Whether the story is the same or not, it's their role, it's their turn, it's their embodiment of this character and the director and the producer and whoever wrote it. So we have to respect that. I have to respect that. Even if I hated this film, which I didn't, I would respect that light. I'm going to go Iron Man 2 this weekend. Super psyched. Go see it. I will have a review for you guys. Anyways, take care, guys.